We are heading north from Delhi to what used to be the summer capital of India. And of course, we are in the Indian Railways, what used to be British Indian Railways. As you can see, our breakfast is served now. The breakfast was just fine, but I think it was nutritious enough and had enough calories to kickstart my morning. And as I mentioned earlier, we are heading north towards the summer capital, or once the summer capital of India, which is now the capital of Himachal. It's called Shimla. This is our train 1, but we'll also take a smaller train, which is the toy train, further ahead in this journey. So I know in one of my previous videos I was talking about the nostalgia of sitting in trains, and I think this is the one in which I'm acting on that nostalgia. I just love this, seeing the world pass by, seeing all these homes and all these cars and these fields and all these things that happen in this part of the world, this part of India. We're just swiftly crossing by all of this. I mean, these people, they're going about their daily lives, earning their daily breads, while we are, at least in this moment, a little more privileged because we are crossing by and trying to reach to the place where we'll vacation. It's so interesting, and sometimes I feel if I were to get off the train even here, then experiencing a life which is so different from my own, that in a way would be kind of a vacation of my own, like getting down, getting into that house, and then maybe sleeping in one of the beds in their bedroom. It'll be quite the experience. I think this is probably some village in Haryana or Punjab, which are kind of neighboring states as we go north from Delhi. And I think in the distance we are already seeing some hazy hills or mountains, which I think are probably like bits of the Himalayas that we'll be eventually climbing later in our day. And as I mentioned, the toy train, which is again a historic train, that's the train that we'll be taking very soon. Shimla was actually built as the big town, or the big city that is, around 200 years ago. I think it was in the early 1800s. That was when British decided to build what they call hill stations, and of course now we have so many of them. Alright, I am hungry, and I suppose you're hungry as well, because that light breakfast that we had in the train was definitely not filling enough, and I guess it was also not nutritious enough. It was just good. So now we will take a break. This is our stop number 1, which is Kalka within Haryana. It's actually neighboring Himachal Pradesh, and from here in Kalka we'll take that train, which is the historic toy train. We'll talk more about it, but before any of that we want to eat here at the Kalka railway station. So either the food was extremely yummy, or I was extremely hungry, or both. That is so interesting. Let's have another go. So, what you see here is actually a checklist of steps that people who are driving the train, the motormen, they must take care of before they get out of this station. This is so wonderful, and this is like one more checklist item. This immediately takes me back to this book that I'm reading. It's called The Checklist Manifesto, and they talk about how keeping checklists, it really helps you in running so many complex tasks, and I think driving this train is one of them. Alright, so we have checked all the items on the checklist now and we are moving right on, gaining altitude now and heading towards Shimla, because that's what this UNESCO World Heritage train route, the Shimla to Kalka or Kalka to Shimla route, is all about, gaining lots and lots of altitude. I think Kalka, where we are right now, is like 650 meters and Shimla is more than 2,200 meters, so we are going to gain a lot of altitude. So I googled just now and I've been humbled by Google. Looks like the altitude where this train will take us is around 2,000 meters and not 2,200, and how it'll take us there is through lots and lots of these tunnels. In fact, there are more than 100 tunnels built all along this track. The Kalka-Shimla toy train was actually built in the late 1800s, so it's already quite a bit more than 100 years old. So this was a tremendous feat of engineering, especially for that time. So here we are, pulling into our very first station. It's called Gumman, and there will be many such stations until eventually we of course reach the last one, which will be Shimla, the summer capital of India. I should clarify, Shimla was the summer capital of India. Now, India just has one capital. Wow, look at that view. That's, of course, the road traffic also taking the same journey. So beautiful. So these people are also headed to Shimla, but they're using the road. By the way, you do know the capital of India, right? So I know I have so few viewers and they're all from this region, so they probably know it. But for the ones who don't, it's Delhi or New Delhi. That's the only capital of India. So as we do gain this altitude, I think you're probably noticing what I'm noticing as well. So the sunlight, it seems different. The landscape, of course, looks different. Soon you'll see the trees will also change. You'll start seeing trees that grow in higher altitudes. But already I think I get the sense that things are looking different and they're prettier. And of course, the tunnels will keep cropping up. We'll keep going in and coming out the other side, because as I told you earlier, there are more than 100 tunnels on this route, and at the time this altitude gaining route was built, wow, so beautiful. So at the time this toy train was built to climb to Shimla from the plains. I think if I'm getting this right, one of the tunnels that was built on this track was the longest tunnel in the world. So that was the level of engineering that was undertook to connect Shimla to the plains. So here we are, we've reached at the next station, which is Dharampur. Now it's already looking so pretty, and I think, referring back to what we were talking about earlier, it's the history and it's the heritage element of these railways that makes it all the more wonderful, and that's why this was also identified as a UNESCO World Heritage. Here we are, crossing more humans and passing by the lives that they're living here. So I cannot help but wonder about the times that existed in this region hundreds of years ago. Wow. And what I mean by that is the time when the Britishers were ruling these areas and were also oppressing the Indians, of course. But there's this sense of magic when you try to go back to those times, I think. And don't get me wrong, when I say magic, I don't speak from a sense of appreciation. I think I speak from a sense of history, because whenever you look at history, especially its positive aspects, such as this piece of infrastructure, I think, at least I do, I feel this very magical thing deep inside my heart. And yeah, now that we've pulled into one of the most beautiful stations of the track, which is called the Badog railway station, I feel that sense of magic. I feel the labor of thousands of people that was spent to build this beautiful station and this beautiful line. And I mean, I think it's correctly named the toy train, because the train as well as the stations, they look as beautiful as the small toys that you would play with when you were young. So yeah, the toy train station of Badog. And that's the history of the railway line and the station. You can try to pause and read if you want to. So we need to rush, and as you probably heard already, the train has given off its siren. I know there's a better way to put it. The train has blared the horn. And therefore we are back in. And we are back moving, climbing higher and higher. And I'm not quite sure if you feel it in the video, but I'm almost feeling the air getting colder and nicer. And of course, along with that, as I was mentioning earlier, you'll see the landscape change and you'll see the trees change completely as well. Because when we go closer to the 2000 meter altitude, we start seeing more of the alpine vegetation. And I guess all of us have noticed how pines and cedars, they are really representative of higher altitudes. So yeah, in our quest to get higher and higher, here we are at one more station. This one's a very important station. It's called Solan. Solan is roughly at an altitude of 1500 meters, so we've already gained 1000 meters or a kilometer in our journey on the toy train. How wonderful, right? Alright, so we will keep moving and we'll keep heading towards that 2000 meter mark so that we reach Shimla. And one interesting bit about Solan that I did not know is that it's actually quite famous for its mushrooms. So I think I do kind of want to get off and grab some tea or something to eat. But I'm kind of scared. What if I miss the train? And I think you're scared as well. What if I miss the train? So we are moving again as we look at that wonderful view and we look at those rain clouds gathering in the distance. And as we also look at those two big pillars, I somehow see, wow, look at that. That's some good art. Nice visuals here as well. So yeah, I think I've seen a lot of construction has been happening all along the route to Shimla. Though I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Wow, you see that? It's a multi-arched bridge. So beautiful, right? And it's so interesting that the bridges, they connect across a ravine, whereas the tunnels connect across a mountain. Well, speak of the mountain, and a beautiful mountain is here. I mean, check out that reflection, that's amazing. And to imagine how this line must have been constructed more than 100 years ago, this is just so beautiful. And I think we are not too far from our destination now. Still looking at that wonderful reflection of the mirror. How beautiful that is. It's actually getting quite cold now. And it's just amazing the kind of landscapes we've passed through. But I think now, finally, we are like really close to our destination. Or maybe not. Because here we are passing by another station. It's called Jotog. But I think now we are really close. There will probably be one more station because I've read about it. It's a station with a very interesting name. It's called Summerhill. But that's about it. Here we are. So we are at Summerhill, which is, I think, the adjacent station to Shimla. So you can get ready now, see where your bags are, put on your jackets, make sure you've not left anything in the train, and we'll get going very soon, just on the other side of this tunnel. So this is the first time I'm taking this train, and I think the journey has been beautiful, but at the same time it's also been extremely long, unexpectedly long. And those are the cedars, I think, the Devdar. That's what we call them in Hindi. And I think they're adjacent to Shimla. Yeah. So I wasn't really much wrong anyways then. We are very much pulling into the station, the Shimla railway station, the very famous, very beautiful, very historical station here at the end of the toy train line. And the station actually marked a very significant step in the history of Shimla and the people who lived here and who still live here, because it really connected this otherwise remote hill town to the rest of the country. It was also the station that made Shimla the summer capital of India. I'm so happy. Welcome to Shimla, everyone. I'll catch you again very soon.